One of the things about space that both mystifies and annoys us is that at times, we don't know what's going on in it. Or when we see or hear or notice something that's going on in it, we aren't always able to understand it within a good amount of time. That's why there are so many people out there who are trying to figure out the mysteries of space via items like the James Webb Space Telescope. Because with its power, we might be able to see and understand things in space that we couldn't before. Allow us to show you how the James Webb Space Telescope will solve the Oumuamua mystery. So what is Oumuamua? Well, it's technically the universe's first interstellar object. One that was found in 2017 by scientists. What does interstellar object mean exactly? That would be an object that is flying through space yet isn't tied to the gravity or pull of a star or other object. So basically, it's something that is hurtling through space on its own without anyone's help. Unlike things like comets and asteroids, which are given direction and form via things like collisions and planetary gravity. This is why Oumuamua is so special in the eyes of scientists, because at points in their research on it, they found that Oumuamua was actually going faster and faster as it traveled through space, even though it wasn't passing through anything or by anything that would allow it to do that. Technically speaking, there are other objects in the universe that move around like Oumuamua, but because of the oddity of the object, as well as the fact that it's over 3,000 feet in length, there are many people who feel that this isn't some kind of random space object. Instead, they think it's an alien craft. No, really, people honestly felt that this was an alien craft of some kind, to the extent that there was heavy research into thinking about what it would mean if it was an alien spacecraft. But then a study that came out in 2019 all but proved that this was a comet, albeit an irregular one, even going so far as to state how it gets extra propulsion via its movements and gases that are emitted. The study's overall reasoning seems sound, and the results are a really good match to the observed characteristics of Oumuamua. Marco Micheli, a scientist at the European Space Agency, told Scientific American. But others still aren't convinced that Oumuamua is a comet. It does not look at least 99.99% of the solar system's comets. Avi Loeb, astrophysicist at Harvard University, also told Scientific American. Loeb is also one of the scientists who thinks Oumuamua might be an alien artifact. Astronomers were able to observe the odd visitor for only 11 days before it appeared too small and too dim to be detected. Considering the scant information obtained from such a short observation window, the true nature of Oumuamua remains a mystery, even today. Reflected sunlight from Oumuamua continually dimmed and brightened, telling astronomers that the object was tumbling end over end every few hours. Based on that variation in the light, astronomers determined that Oumuamua is much longer than it is wide, by a factor of 5 to 10, meaning it's shaped like either a cigar or a pancake. By the time Oumuamua was detected, it was already on its way out of the solar system. Given the object's incredible speed and steep angle relative to the rest of the system, Oumuamua was not gravitationally bound to the sun. Astronomers monitored Oumuamua with a variety of ground and space-based observatories for about 11 days. That's it, 11 days. Those observations are all the information we'll ever have about this mysterious visitor. Oumuamua is already too distant and too dim to be seen with even our most powerful instruments, and no rocket could ever hope to catch up with it. So in the minds of many, it's gone, and it won't be able to be studied by us again. Or at least that's what many speculate. Because with the James Webb Telescope, we might be able to glimpse it and potentially monitor it and get more information on it. It's hard to say if this will actually be the case, but it is the most powerful telescope ever made, and it's already finding things in space. So why not Oumuamua? In the years since the original discovery, only one other interstellar visitor has been spotted. And that object, called 21 Borisov, looked and acted like any other comet. Nothing like Oumuamua has ever been seen before or since. Which is sad, because that further dims the odds of us finding out more about it, or, at the very least, something like it. But who can say if another opportunity won't present itself again, especially given the power of the James Webb? And we mean that in the literal sense. When the Hubble Space Telescope was made and launched, it was good, very good even, and we still get things from it. But it was already out of date by the time it got into space. Hubble had a whole bunch of top-line goals, many of which were like 20 years old, said McCaffrian, who is also an interdisciplinary scientist at NASA's James Webb Space Telescope, JWST, Science Working Group. By the time they built it, science had moved, science had changed in some areas. And one of the things that astronomers discovered in the 1980s, shortly before Hubble's 1990 launch, was that galaxies formed much earlier than expected. It became obvious that another, even grander space observatory will be needed to get to those earlier stars and galaxies. Those that had lit up the universe after hundreds of millions of years of darkness that followed the Big Bang, when the expanding space was only filled with hydrogen atoms. The technology that would eventually enable this observatory, now known as the James Webb Space Telescope, originally called the Next Generation Space Telescope, to see that mythical first light in the universe had yet to be developed. This missing piece of technology was infrared detectors that would be able to collect the faint light coming from those early stars and galaxies more than 13 billion light years away. Hubble was built to detect visible and ultraviolet light. These early galaxies do emit visible light, but because of their distance, the wavelength of this light gets stretched into the infrared part of the electromagnetic spectrum by the so-called redshift. McCaffrey, then a PhD student at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland, was one of those scientists developing early infrared detectors, a technology that has now reached its culmination in 4 cutting-edge scientific instruments of the James Webb Space Telescope. In the 1980s, infrared pictures were taken with one detector scanning the sky 1 pixel at a time, said McCaffrey. It took forever. My PhD thesis was all about the first camera which could take 2D infrared images. We had 58 times 62 pixels, and that was 4,000 times more than anybody else had because they only had one. The technology has come a long way since Hubble's early years, and the James Webb Space Telescope project has been pushing it further along the way. The detectors on JWST have 2,000 by 2,000 pixels, and we have lots of them, McCaffrey said. We have many more infrared pixels on JWST than Hubble had optical pixels when it was launched. What all this goes to show, and we could have talked a lot more about this to be clear, is that the James Webb Telescope is one of the most powerful observational tools out there in the entire world/universe. That we know of, at least. So when it comes to the telescope being able to see things like Oumuamua and other things, it's not only likely, it's already happening. It recently found a black hole in a hidden part of a galaxy that could reveal a lot of data, and who knows what it'll find next. Now, it's true, we may never find out what the Oumuamua is, and that actually is okay if you think about it, because part of the mystery of space is that there is mystery in space. If there wasn't a mystery, we wouldn't want to go exploring it. This comet, whatever it is or isn't, is something that is drawing people into this field and getting them to invent things like the James Webb in order to solve the mystery and get us one step closer to understanding the universe. And knowing that the Oumuamua is still out there in space is a thing that will bring many people to the table. So, what do you think? What do you think of this look at this Oumuamua mystery and why the James Webb Telescope might just be the thing to help us understand it better? Did you know about this very particular comet in the past? Did you think it was a true mystery of space beforehand? Do you want the James Webb Telescope to understand it so we can potentially find others like it? Let us know in the comments below, and we'll see you next time on the channel.